I never thought my life could spiral so fast, but there I was, standing in the middle of my living room, staring at the man who had once been my brother, and feeling like I didn't even know him. My wife was gone, taken, and not by some stranger, not by some random twist of fate, but by him, my own brother, the person I grew up with, the one I swore I'd have my back no matter what. And now he had taken the one thing that defined my life, the one person who made everything worth it. I remember that day so clearly. I came home earlier than usual, just expecting the usual quiet hum of our house. The smell of coffee, the faint laughter of my wife in the kitchen, maybe the sound of her humming a song she loved. But instead, it was different. The door was slightly ajar, and a strange silence hung over the place. My stomach dropped the moment I stepped inside. Something was off. And then I heard it, the sound of laughter. That soft, familiar laugh that should have only been hers. Only it wasn't hers alone. I froze, and there they were, my wife and my brother, together, in a way that shattered something deep inside me, something I didn't even realize I was holding on to. Everything I thought I knew about trust, family, love, it all crumbled in an instant. My mind went blank, my heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. I wanted to scream, to lash out, to demand answers. But all I could do was stand there, numb, watching the betrayal unfold before my eyes. I had questions, so many questions, but the truth was, I already knew some of the answers. The look on their faces said it all. The guilt, the shame, the thrill of secrecy. And in that moment, I realized something even scarier than their betrayal. I had underestimated them both. I had underestimated how far my brother could go, how easily he could destroy everything I had built, everything I loved. And yet, as raw as the pain was, as suffocating as the anger felt, a part of me couldn't let it end like this. I knew I had to do something, something that would make him realize what he had truly lost. Not out of revenge, not out of spite, but because there was one thing he could never replace. One thing that no matter how he tried, no matter how he schemed, he could never take from me. I didn't know what the plan would be yet. I didn't know how far I was willing to go, or what the consequences would be. But I knew one thing for certain. The next move would change everything. And by the time it was over, nothing would ever be the same. Little did he know, I was just getting started. I should probably explain how we got here, because on the surface, everything looked normal. My brother, Daniel, and I grew up inseparable. We shared bedrooms, secrets, and dreams. We fought like every set of brothers does, but we always thought it was harmless, just part of family life. And then there was Sarah, my wife. We'd met in college, and I knew from the first moment she smiled at me that she was different, grounding, life-changing. She had this way of making the world feel lighter, even on the darkest days. I trusted her, adored her, loved her more than I ever thought possible. Daniel, though, he was complicated, charming, unpredictable, reckless. The kind of guy who could light up a room with a joke and ruin it with a single thoughtless action. He had a way of getting what he wanted, always had. And maybe that's part of why I never saw it coming. I never imagined he'd betray me in this way, crossing a line that should have been sacred. Family was supposed to mean something. And yet there he was, taking the one person I held most dear. Sarah and I had a life together. Small, messy, perfect in its own way. Weekends were spent hiking or cooking meals together, and evenings ended on the couch, binge-watching our favorite shows. There was laughter, quiet conversation, and a kind of stability I thought I'd always have. Daniel would visit sometimes, often just dropping by unannounced, a whirlwind of energy and mischief. I liked when he came around, even if he disrupted the calm of our little world. But somewhere along the line, something shifted. I didn't notice at first. Maybe I was too busy working, too wrapped up in the routine of married life. Then came the signs. Small at first, a lingering look, a subtle smile that didn't reach his eyes, Sarah's laughter that felt different when Daniel was around. I tried to ignore it, convincing myself I was being paranoid. But deep down, a gnawing unease grew, a whisper telling me that something was wrong, something that didn't make sense. My gut was never wrong. And then that day happened, the one that shattered everything. Coming home early, finding them together, it wasn't just betrayal. It was a lesson in how fragile trust really is. I realized that the life I'd built, the love I'd nurtured, could be taken from me in a heartbeat. Not by chance, not by fate, but by someone I thought I knew better than anyone. And that's when I started to think differently. About Daniel. About Sarah. About myself. About the one thing no one could ever take from me, no matter what. That thought settled in my chest like a weight, heavy and burning. I knew the moment had come to make a choice. A choice that would change everything. A choice that would test the limits of morality, love, and vengeance. The problem was, I didn't know if I was ready for what it would cost me. And worse, I didn't know if I could stop myself once I started. After that day, everything changed. I couldn't look at Daniel the same way. The familiarity, the brotherly bond one once relied on, had vanished, replaced by a mix of anger, disbelief, and a strange, aching emptiness. Sarah. I loved her, but now every smile, every word, felt tainted. I couldn't tell if she felt guilty, or if she justified it in some way I didn't understand. Every glance she gave me carried a weight I couldn't read. I tried to act normal, to keep my life together, but the house felt hollow. Every sound made me jump. Every knock at the door had me bracing for some new betrayal. And Daniel, he acted as if nothing had happened. That was the worst part. The way he laughed at the dinner table, the way he joked about trivial things, it made my blood boil. Did he even realize what he had done? Did he care? Or was this just another game for him, like it always had been? I kept replaying that moment over and over in my mind. The shock, the laughter, the way they looked at each other. And the anger, it wasn't just anger. It was something deeper, something primal. It wasn't about revenge at first, not really. It was about balance, about reclaiming a part of my life that had been stolen. That's when I realized there was one thing Daniel could never replace, no matter what he did. One thing beyond money, beyond charm, beyond manipulation. And I had it. But knowing that and acting on it were two entirely different things. Every time I imagined taking it, every plan forming in my head, my pulse raced. The line between right and wrong blurred. Could I really do it? Should I? And if I did, what would it mean for Sarah? For Daniel? For me? The questions tormented me, but the answer didn't matter yet. The moment had to come, and I could feel it approaching, like a storm gathering on the horizon. The tension built with every encounter. Every accidental brush of hands with Sarah, every casual remark from Daniel, felt loaded, dangerous. I realized that patience was as much a weapon as anything else. I had to wait for the perfect moment. One wrong move, and everything could crumble. But one right move, and nothing would ever be the same. And then, late one night, I saw it. A small opportunity, almost insignificant, but enough to change everything. It was fleeting, but it was there. The question was, could I take it? The nights were the hardest. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together. The laughter, the whispered conversations, the way Daniel's hand would linger just a moment too long on hers. It was a silent torment that gnawed at me, and yet, it fueled something else inside me. A resolve I couldn't ignore. I started paying closer attention. Every habit, every routine, every tiny detail that might give me an edge. It was exhausting, but necessary. I had to be precise. I couldn't afford mistakes. I began leaving subtle messages, small reminders that I was still watching, still aware. Nothing overt, nothing that would give me away. But Daniel noticed. I could see it in his eyes, the flicker of doubt, the tension that wasn't there before. He didn't know what I was planning, but I could sense that he felt the shift. And Sarah? She seemed quieter too, more cautious, as if she could feel the storm brewing, even if she didn't understand it. Every encounter became a test of wills. A glance, a touch, a word, it all carried weight. I learned to control my reactions, to mask my anger with calm, almost polite composure. But inside, I was anything but calm. My mind raced constantly, piecing together possibilities, scenarios, outcomes. I thought about the one thing Daniel could never replace, the one thing that belonged only to me. The more I focused on it, the more I realized just how powerful it could be, and how devastating if used correctly. Then came the night that changed everything. I followed Daniel and Sarah to a party they didn't even know I was aware of. From a distance, I watched their interactions, the ease, the flirtation, the sense of ownership they had over each other. It was almost unbearable, but it also revealed something critical. A vulnerability, a crack in their armor. And that crack, that was all I needed. I didn't act immediately. I waited, hiding in the shadows, letting the tension build inside me until it felt like it might burst. Every heartbeat echoed in my chest. Every step they took, Every laugh, every careless glance toward each other made my mind spin with plans, each more daring than the last. I was balancing on a knife's edge between control and chaos. One wrong step, and the entire plan would unravel. But one perfect move, and I could change everything. And then it happened. A moment so small, so seemingly insignificant, but loaded with opportunity. Daniel turned his back for just a second. Sarah stepped slightly aside, distracted. The opening I had been waiting for, the chance to act without hesitation. But hesitation wasn't an option. If I moved too quickly, I'd ruin everything. If I moved too slowly, I might lose it forever. I took a deep breath, my hands trembling, heart racing, mind screaming with every possible outcome. And as I stepped forward, the world seemed to hold its breath. I was ready, but I had no idea what would happen next. Just as I was about to make my move, something happened that I never saw coming. Daniel didn't notice my presence, but Sarah did. Her eyes locked onto mine for a fraction of a second, long enough to send a shiver down my spine. And then she smiled. Not the guilty, apologetic smile I expected. Not the scared, caught-off-guard look. No, this was something else. Calculated. Knowing. Before I could even react, Daniel turned fully toward me, and in that instant, I realized something terrifying. This had never been just about him and Sarah. They'd planned it. Every laugh, every whispered conversation, every stolen moment. They had known I was watching all along. They had been playing me. Every step I thought I had control over, every moment I'd been calculating, they had anticipated. My chest tightened. My heart raced. What I had assumed was an opening, my chance to reclaim what was mine, was actually a trap. And the thing I thought I could use against them, the one thing no one could replace, might not even work anymore. And in that moment, I knew the next move I made would either destroy everything or destroy me. I froze for a heartbeat, heart pounding like a war drum, but I didn't let fear take over. I had come too far, planned too carefully, to back down now. Slowly, deliberately, I stepped forward, keeping my voice calm, measured, even as every nerve in my body screamed at me to act. Enough, I said, my words cutting through the party noise like a knife. Daniel and Sarah both turned fully toward me. Surprise flashed across Daniel's face, but it was quickly replaced with a smirk. Sarah, she didn't flinch. She just watched, cool and composed, as if she'd expected this moment all along. I know what you two have been doing. I continued, each word dripping with quiet fury. I know how long you planned this, how you thought I'd never see it coming. My pulse was racing, but my hand stayed steady. I reached into my pocket, feeling the one thing I had been holding the whole time, the thing Daniel could never replace. My leverage, my power. Daniel's smirk faltered when he saw it, and for the first time, I realized I had him. But then Sarah's smile widened. You think you have control? She asked softly, almost mockingly. Control is an illusion. You've been blind the whole time. That's when I understood. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a game none of us truly controlled. Daniel had taken her, yes, but she had been manipulating both of us. Every move, every subtle glance, every decision, they were all part of her plan. She had been the one orchestrating the chaos. I felt the weight of everything crash down on me. The anger, the heartbreak, the rage, all mixed with a twisted sense of admiration. She had outplayed us both. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. The one thing I thought I could use to win might no longer matter. But I didn't stop. I made my move anyway, the only one I could. I acted with precision, with intent, knowing that even if the outcome wasn't what I expected, it would change the game forever. By the time it was over, nothing, and no one, would ever be the same. And as I stepped back, catching my breath, I saw her expression shift, just slightly, a shadow of fear. For the first time, I knew the next twist wasn't coming from them. It was coming from me. The aftermath was surreal. The chaos, the betrayal, the tension, all of it settled into an uneasy quiet. Daniel didn't speak. He avoided my eyes, and I realized something had shifted between us permanently. The brother I had known, the one I trusted, was gone. What remained was a stranger I had once called family. Sarah, on the other hand, was impossible to read. She looked calm, almost serene, but there was an edge to her, a subtle acknowledgement that everything had changed. I could see it in the way she avoided Daniel's gaze, the way she lingered just a little too long on me. The dynamic had shifted, but the power she held, the charm, the control, the ability to influence, was still there. I had expected to feel victorious, to reclaim something tangible, but the truth was more complicated. What I had taken, the one thing Daniel could never replace, wasn't an object. It wasn't money or leverage or some petty token of revenge. It was knowledge, clarity, and self-respect. By facing the betrayal head-on, by confronting both of them, I had reclaimed a part of myself that no one could touch. I realized that my life didn't have to revolve around what others had taken from me. I didn't need to win against them to win for myself. We didn't speak much after that night. Daniel left the city shortly afterward, disappearing from my life almost entirely. Sarah, she stayed, but our relationship was forever altered. We weren't the same couple who had shared laughter and quiet evenings before. Trust, once broken, leaves cracks that can never fully heal. And yet, in those cracks, there is room for truth, for understanding, for growth. I spent weeks reflecting, questioning my choices, my anger, and my decisions. I realized that the story wasn't really about betrayal, or revenge, or winning. It was about understanding human complexity, the way love, loyalty, and deception can intertwine in ways we never anticipate. It was about recognizing our own boundaries, our limits, and the things we refuse to compromise. In the end, I didn't need to destroy anyone. I didn't need to play their game. I just needed to reclaim my life, my sense of self, and the one thing no one could ever take from me, my agency. And as I walked alone one evening, feeling the crisp air fill my lungs, I understood something profound. Life doesn't give us guarantees. People will betray us, hurt us, and challenge us in ways that seem impossible to endure. But the strength we find in ourselves, that is irreplaceable. I smiled faintly, knowing that the story of what had happened would always linger, like a shadow at the edge of memory. But I was no longer afraid of it. I had survived. I had learned. And I had grown. Sometimes, the greatest victory isn't in taking back what's lost. It's in discovering what was yours all along.